Billy Napier is making progress clearly, and could he be re-establishing himself as the head coach of the Florida Gators?
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast and Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you go to podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olson. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Billy Napier is making progress as a head coach. I don't think anybody can really argue that either. And I do think that if you do argue he's making progress, or as in if you argue against that, I think it's a bias. Because I do think that you can say, oh, the team's playing hard, but the issue is the team's playing hard and not winning football games. Now they're playing hard and they won a football game. That's progress. It's still not enough personally for me, in my opinion. I know that I put out the poll on Twitter yesterday and I was like, hey, has Billy Napier done enough to, I forgot what the exact wording was, but has Billy Napier done enough to deserve the Florida Gators coaching job for the future? And the answers were yes, not yet, and never will. And actually, at the time of recording this right now, I will say that there have been quite a few not super nice reactions to things. But that's just how people are going to react to things. But it says, has Billy Napier done enough to prove he should stay as the head coach of the Florida Gators? 36% said yes. 52% have said not yet, and 12% said never will, as in that he can never earn it. That's fine if that's how you feel about things, but I think there's been progress shown. I am still where I stand on Billy, but like I've said, I will remain open-minded. There was progress shown. This against LSU was one of Billy Napier's best wins as a head coach. Again, there's still plenty of work to be done, but beating LSU was one of his best wins. I think that you can argue it's between LSU and Utah 2022 for it to be the best. I think that for me, part of it is like no one would have been too mad if you lost to Utah because you were the worst team there, right? That was a good Utah team that won the Pac-12. Like that was a great year for Utah. But you beat them with not a ton of pressure on you there. This LSU team lost to USC to start the year, which at the time people were like, okay, that's a quality loss. And then USC's season just hurtled down to earth. Then LSU lost to Marcel Reed at Texas A&M when he came in when he came in, I think during the third quarter, when he came in, they came back and beat LSU. Then you got blown out by Alabama. And then you lose to Florida. They're on a 3-game losing streak. This LSU team doesn't look nearly as good as they looked just a couple weeks ago or even a week ago. They don't look as good as they used to. So I do think that you could argue that. But when I think about it, I look at more in terms of everybody doubting Billy Napier, in terms of how desperately you needed this win. That's where I go, this might be his biggest win. Just because, again, this was Billy Napier got the vote of confidence from Scott Strickland, much to many Florida Gators fans' chagrin. Got the vote of confidence from Scott Strickland. Went out and beat LSU as underdogs at home. The first time you've beaten LSU in what feels like 25 years. It's been forever. And it's felt like a very long time. Billy Napier had never done it. Billy Napier had also never beaten Kentucky. When you piece together some of those things, you can kind of piece together an argument for keeping him. And this win being that, because it was always going to be, if you have 4 or 5 wins at the bye week before Georgia, then you were going to need to kind of tighten up after the Georgia and Texas games, because you were very likely not going to win either of those games the entire time. And you come up and you beat LSU, and now it's like, hey, well, there's Ole Miss, and then there's a bad Florida State team. Florida could very realistically reach bowl eligibility here. I also don't like that people, like I've said, if you beat Ole Miss and you beat Florida State, I think I'll be back on board, totally fine with it. Okay, but I don't think that beating LSU is enough for me. It's just not. It's progress, and I've always said that I will remain open-minded. Like ever since I started calling for Billy Napier's job, I've said I will remain open-minded about this. You can win me back, because I think you're just not doing yourself any favors by going, I've made this decision, and even if the data changes, even if the information changes, I'm sticking by it forever. So I do think that you can win me back. You haven't yet, though, because beating LSU on its own is not that, especially when LSU looks worse than they've looked. Kentucky, they looked really good against Georgia. They beat Ole Miss, but outside of that, they haven't looked like a great football team this year, right? Like people are talking about how, this might be the year where Kentucky's finally getting fed up with Mark Stoops. You know how underwhelming a year it has to be for you to have the Kentucky administration fed up with you for football? So no, for me, it has to be a body of work. It can't just be one individual game as he's back, they're playing hard, and they won a game. This is progress. And I don't think it's fair to say there's not progress, because I do think that it's very clear that, yes, you've developed at times. You've taken steps. This team that we watched on Saturday night against LSU is not the same team that we watched on August 31st against Miami. This team that we watched on Saturday night is not the same team that we watched against UCF. I will stand on, I don't think the UCF game is a good football game. I don't like when people try to bring that up as an argument for Billy or against Billy. I don't think it was a good football game. I don't think that Florida played well. I think Florida played average, and UCF played terrible. You took advantage of a bad team. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, but you don't get bonus points or anything like that. But Florida, there's still a path to get this back. You got the commitment of quarterback Tramel Jones last night. That gives you a 2025 QB. It bumps your class up from 51. You've made some improvement. You've made some progress. You're working toward it. But the issue has been that there's never been any true sense of consistent success here under Napier. That's one of the big things, right? Like, you look at every time it seems like, oh, they might be building momentum. Something happens and shuts it down. Now it's the test of Billy Napier's coaching ability. You beat LSU, and everyone was pumped for it. And everyone was hyped. I don't know if you've ever been in like the Twitter spaces, but like Saturday night was an elite night in Twitter spaces because it was everybody happy, celebrating the victory, all that stuff, right? But you need to do more. You've made progress, and yes, you're going to stay. That does not mean that you've earned it or deserve it. And I'm not trying to be like a downer here. I know people get mad at me for that. I'm not trying to be a downer. I just want to establish that I am very happy that Florida beat LSU. That was a good win. That was a well-coached win. Okay? It was. That was a fine coaching performance. There was still a 12-man on the field penalty. There were still a few things we'll talk about in the next segment about coaching-wise that I do think need to be fixed. But overall, that was a good win in front of a ton of recruits. A ton. And you know what? LSU was smart to tell DJ Pickett to not come on this visit, because that would have been brutal. Because for me, one of the big things that popped out was not just Florida's pass rush, but their coverage was great for the overwhelming majority of the night. It was. There were some plays that broke down like Sharif Denson, but for the most part, that was a great game for the Florida Gators. It was. It was an ugly, messy game that you had to dig deep and win, and you did it. And I don't remember the last time the Florida's really had to do that. With South Carolina last year, where you had to really grind down and grit out a win and actually do it. They did it. That's a good thing to be happy for, right? That's a good thing to be proud of. It doesn't erase everything we've seen for the past 3 seasons, though. There's progress being made, but there's still more progress that needs to be made. We'll look at the offense from Saturday night against LSU next on Locked On Gators. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life, and it takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, or if you're watching LSU try to drive, or if you're watching Jaden Ball rip off a 55-yard touchdown run where the swamp just erupts into a crowd and they're screaming and they're going nuts. That's why 5 Hour Energy has created Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us, like me, like you. The fans who are first in the parking lot, last to leave, we see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. And if you can see this behind me, Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign for college sports fans. The Team Ticker is 1.5 feet by a 2-foot wall sign featuring Albert right here, the Gator logo that has a cool retro-looking LED display. The display is updated daily with fresh content such as a countdown to the next game, schedules, standings, news, stats, so much more. Super fun and with a great way to stay connected with Florida Gators sports. They just pop up right now. We're looking at the Florida Gators team defense over there. That's what you get. You get just cycling stats through the entire time. Field goal percentage. This is men's basketball, by the way. I just want to throw that one out there. Whether it's football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, soccer, or softball, Team Ticker has you covered. Each sign's officially licensed, meeting high-quality standards, and is assembled by hand in the U.S. Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign. Go to teamticker.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON to receive $50 off your Team Ticker purchase. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Talking about the Florida Gators offense against LSU, I will say my biggest gripe with it, they need to figure out at least one of two things here. One, play calling wise, you need to get the call in quicker. Right? There was one point on Saturday night where we're watching the game and they're showing Billy Napier with like 20 seconds ticking down, and he's still not giving the call. And then we see him start giving the call. So it was him giving the call, but you get till 15 seconds on the clock and then the headset cuts off. You can't be waiting until 20 seconds to start giving the call and then have Lagway give the call to everybody, have them get set. The offensive line needs to read what LSU's defense is giving them, make their adjustments. DJ Lagway might have to make an adjustment there. You can't wait till there's that little time left to start giving the call. You need to be quicker. I don't know what it is, but they need to expedite the process here a little bit because these play calling, like it takes too long. And on the specific play I'm talking about, it was broadcast where we see Billy start to get the goal. I forgot if it was a delay a game or a timeout use, but like it's not like these are harmless things that you're not seeing, that you're not feeling. We frequently see DJ Lagway or Graham Mertz when it was Graham get the call late and then a delay of game come in or need to burn a timeout. Like this process needs to be expedited. That's my biggest coaching gripe from Saturday night or evening. That's my biggest coaching gripe. You got to get the calls in quicker. It's either that or you need to get DJ Lagway to operate with more of a sense of urgency at the line of scrimmage. And I don't know. I had this issue in 2023 when Florida lost to Arkansas. And Graham Mertz was the one that was like yelling about burning timeouts when they shouldn't have to burn timeouts and all that stuff. And I have a hard time looking at a coach make over $7 million and faulting a quarterback or a player or expecting the player or a quarterback to go make the adjustment there. Like, yeah, you could say DJ Lagway needs to operate with more of a sense of urgency. You could also say that the guy making $7.3 million needs to get a call in quicker. That's my biggest coaching gripe from that game on offense. It's that happened multiple times. There was one stretch where they got the penalty, they called timeout, like things happened back to back, and it's those they cascade, they avalanche, that can happen to you. And as far as the actual offense goes, DJ Lagway was clearly not healthy. He did not run a single time, which, by the way, we will. I know that this isn't a live show, but we will clap. We will clap. Offensive line played one hell of a game. Like the offensive line played great on Saturday night. Truly, at least as far as pass blocking goes. LSU got near DJ Lagway quite often, considering he didn't drop back often, but they got near because they didn't have any plays. They got near Lagway often. Never sacked him, but I don't think that I don't think you could fault the offensive line for the pressures that were coming in, because the pressures were coming off of blitzes. Like LSU was being pretty damn aggressive because they knew DJ Lagway couldn't run. Like that's it. Or at least in my opinion, that's what it was. That they were like, hey, DJ is not going to run the football right now. Let's get nuts, right? They blitzed him 35% of his dropbacks. Okay? 35% of his dropbacks. That they were being very aggressive. And they should have been, by the way. If you have a quarterback that you know isn't going to be able to take off, you should be aggressive, right? But the offensive line did their part, and when pressures were getting in, they weren't getting home, and it wasn't really on the offensive line. It was like overloading one side, which it's tough to expect an offensive line to handle that. Things like that, or just sending more rushers than you had blockers. O-line played really well on Saturday night with pass blocking. The run game was used sparingly, but the running backs were moving. They only had 14 carries by the running backs, but 4 of those went for 10 plus yards, and 6 of them picked up first downs. Pretty good, pretty effective. Of course, there was also the Jaden Baugh 55-yard rushing touchdown that was just deuces right out the gate. But I will say as well with DJ Lagway, I understand he was not healthy. He clearly was not healthy, but this is something that he's dealt with even when he's healthy. And I'm just bringing this up again because I know, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because I've seen the Twitter timeline and I've seen my chat on Saturday night. I saw the live chat going and calling him generational. He can be generational, okay? Like DJ Lagway truly, and I don't throw that word around often, DJ Lagway can be generational. He does the things already that very few quarterbacks in the country, let alone true freshmen, but very few quarterbacks in the country can do physically. Natural arm talent that just the ball flies out of his hand. Beautiful deep passer. It's incredible how accurate his deep ball is for a true freshman, especially, but just for any quarterback, it's incredible. But he has to clean up quite a few things before we can truly talk about him going from generational prospect or generational recruit to generational player. And I think that's the jump. Like that's the jump. And for me, a lot of it comes down to you can't be I feel like we've seen it quite a few times where he throws off platform for these short underneath passes and whiffs on them. He should have thrown 2 picks against LSU, maybe a third. Like it wasn't a clean game. There was one where it just went right to the LSU defender and just dropped it. But it's stuff like that, and it's fixable things, right? It's not like, oh, this is who he is. He's a freshman. He's got to dial it back a little bit, settle down. You don't need to be throwing off platform if you don't need to be throwing off platform. And he tends to just throw off platform sometimes when he shouldn't. That's got to clean up. But the Florida Gators, with Billy Napier at the helm, have a quarterback that can be generational. Like you can watch DJ Lagway play as a true freshman, and you can acknowledge, hey, he's got these flaws. He does, because he's not a perfect player. No one's ever been a perfect player. So you can acknowledge he's got these flaws. But you can also look at what he presently does and say that kid could be an all-timer. Like that kid could be elite. but he's got to put things together. And this isn't something I'm saying for the rest of the season. I don't expect you to fix that during the season. But during the off season, that's something I expect to be a focus. And that's also a thing where it's like once you get more comfortable with the game, it slows down. But he gets helped a lot by being maybe the best deep passer in the SEC, in the country, if he gets a larger sample size. He's been really good throwing the deep ball. Elijah Badger's opened up a lot. Shim Dike's opened up a lot. And I also think about this team, I'm like, man, if Trey Wilson was healthy, we could be talking about something special going on. But right now, you're going to live and die with the deep ball as a passer and the run game. That's fine. If DJ Lagway is healthier for the Ole Miss game, which, in theory he should be, opens up the run game with himself, and it's like that area of, maybe the underneath passing game is going to take some time to get there. But you can supplement that with the run game, the quarterback run game, and the deep ball. And you can supplement these things. And if you can do that, we're cooking with gas there. And give Hayden the ball more. I will say that. We're going to flip to the defensive side of the ball for the rest of today's episode when we get back with Locked On Gators. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And I will say, I thought I was going to hit a banger of a parlay yesterday because I forgot, it was 4 players, but Jonnu Smith was the first one, and Jonnu Smith scored pretty early. And then one other came close to scoring. I was like, oh, he's going to punch it in. They just threw it. It was Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, they just kept throwing it into the end zone every time, and it was driving me crazy. It was brutal. But when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Game Time has a new feature that is called Game Time Picks that makes it easy to see your favorite teams. Okay? Easier to see your favorite teams with Game Time, which Florida Gators face Ole Miss this weekend, last home game of the season. Got to be a doozy. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'd imagine there might be thousands of tickets available for Florida at Florida State if the Florida Gators fans want to storm that field. Just saying. I'm just saying. If you want to storm that field, would be pretty cool. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And we're going to wrap up talking about the Florida Gators defense. And it was the best natural pass rush I think we've seen from the Florida Gators team in Billy Napier's entire tenure, probably. It's been a long time since you've seen a pass rush that just wrecked stuff for an offense. I mean, I tweeted out the number when it happened, but LSU allowed 6 sacks the entire season prior to that game against Florida. And Florida sacked Garrett Nussmeier 7 times. Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp, the film that they put out on Saturday night is film that's going to make an NFL team want to draft them. I'm not saying high, but it's going to make an NFL team want to draft them, assuming that they're going to be in the draft this year, with how eligibility goes and how things can get really weird with just modern college football roster management. I mean, you got Cam McCormick's 9 years, Cam Rising's 8 years. I know they've got injury medical redshirts, but still. But yeah, NFL teams are going to watch that tape and look at what has been a pretty good LSU offensive line. And I get that there were injuries, but they're going to look at Caleb Banks dominate And that's the thing that I was talking about on Saturday night after the game is I know they had injuries and that, it's a backup left guard and then a freshman. I don't care because what Caleb Banks did was went out there and dominate someone he's supposed to dominate. And that matters. If you dominate and you go, oh yeah, but it was against, a freshman or a backup or whatever, you still dominated. Like you did what you're supposed to do. It's what, and I'm so sorry to say this about the Jaguars. Just earmuffs for 10 seconds. But with the Lions, they beat the crap out of the Jaguars yesterday. And afterward, it's like, hey, we beat the teams that are good and we annihilate teams that we're supposed to. And that's what Caleb Banks did against LSU. He was supposed to go out there and dominate, and that's what the hell he did. And Caleb can come back for another year, by the way. He's a redshirt junior, so he can come back as well and just be right back into the fold with the Florida Gators, which I'd be happy about. And Tyreek Sapp as well, a redshirt junior, both having great years right now. But Caleb Banks, 7 pressures is just nuts. Tyreek Sapp had 3 pressures. Shamar James had 3 pressures and 2 sacks. George Gums had 3 pressures and a sack. Banks and Sapp also had a sack. Cam Jackson had 3 pressures. Cam Jackson had 4 pressures the entire season before that game, and he had 3 pressures. TJ Susie had a pressure and a sack, and I think a forced fumble. Jaden Robinson had a pressure. Cam James had a pressure and a sack. Aaron Gates had a pressure. Jack Pyburn had a pressure, and he doesn't get pressures. Remember, I was talking about it before the LSU game. I said Jack Pyburn has 3 pressures in the entire season. He doesn't get pressures. He got a pressure against LSU. This defensive line played one of the best games that we've seen from them. Okay? It was the best pure pass rush. Like, yeah, you blitzed. Shamar blitzed a lot. You found success blitzing. But even when you didn't blitz, your team was giving it to him. Like, your team was causing hell. And that's a great thing to be able to do. Again, I don't care that it was a backup interior offensive line. You went out there and you beat the crap out of people you're supposed to beat the crap out of. Okay? That's what matters. Because far too often, just in my lifetime as a Florida Gators fan, I've seen when Florida's on a down trajectory or like when they're on the bottom of the graph and they're coming back up, where you go out there and you don't dominate a team you're supposed to dominate. And you don't dominate a player, or like a player doesn't dominate a player he's supposed to dominate. This, we see like CJ Henderson gave up 100-something receiving yards and a touchdown or 2 against Montreal, Washington, who went to the NFL, but was playing for Samford. That's a guy you're supposed to dominate. And he didn't. This, not a question, not a problem. Also, I will say for me, one of my biggest issues with the Florida Gators defense on Saturday, too many late down conversions. LSU's average distance on late downs was 8.25 yards. So basically, they were on average 3rd and 8. They went 13 for 24 on 3rd down. At one point, they were 10 for 14. So they went 3 for 10 on their final 10 3rd downs, which is great. And 2 for 4 on 4th down. Like, you got the win this time. And again, it was a good win. It was a well-deserved win. But I just don't see how that's sustainable. Allowing 13 for 20. That means that they converted more than 50% of their 3rd downs. I think the average across college football is like 39%. That's a big jump. That needs to come down, especially against an Ole Miss and against Florida State. You can't let them in the door. But like, I don't see how it's sustainable, we'll say, to allow teams to convert at that rate and still win games consistently. So you got to tighten that up. But again, you did what you needed to do to win. It was frustrating, but you limited explosives. Like, the way that I look at it, I hate that you allowed LSU to go 13 for 24 on 3rd down, right? However, you limited explosive plays. And that matters a lot to me because that was a thing that you did very poorly the prior weeks, not just Texas, but the prior weeks. You limited explosive plays this time. That matters. If we go, hey, well, they allowed a bunch of 3rd down conversions. You limited explosive plays. You kept playing bend, don't break defense, and you kept them out the end zone. That's great. Limit explosive plays. If they're going to dink and dunk, they dink and dunk. My issue is not even just going 13 for 24. It's that they were on average 8 yards back and they went 13 for 24. And that's rough. And we saw there were a few rough conversions there. But you played great. Tackling was maybe I don't want to say maybe. Tackling against LSU on Saturday night was the best we've seen under Billy Napier. And I can confidently say that because that was the best tackling we've seen against, especially against an SEC team, in years. It's probably the first year of Mullen, or if not sooner. Okay? 9 missed tackles. Obviously, every coach is going to say that can come down until you're at 0. But 9 missed tackles, despite playing 93 snaps. That's really good. That's factually, that's just really good, okay? And so Florida deserves whatever you want to give them a round of applause, whatever it is. It was a good win. It was a great win, right? I don't care. If you disagree, you disagree. That's fine. But that was a good win for the Florida Gators. And it's something to be happy about and to be excited for. One of the best wins of Billy Napier's tenure as the head coach of the Florida Gators. And now you've got an opportunity to get the biggest win in your tenure as a head coach of the Florida Gators with Ole Miss. And Lane Kiffin, the guy that everyone goes, hey, Florida should hire him instead of you. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.